So after that video where I told you guys a bunch of the things that I would like to see in the Hunter Call of the Wild and confirmed a few of the things that are going to be coming in the future, you guys wanted a part 2, so there most likely will be a part 3 to this as well, because there's just so many different things that would be great in Call of the Wild that I really don't have enough time to talk about all of them in just 2 videos. Even 2 videos is just not quite enough, which is kind of crazy that there's just that many amazing things that could be put in the game at one point. Now, today we're going to go over a bunch of the ones that I found in the comments of the last video, and ones that I really agree with that should be in the game. And the first one is trail cams. Now, trail cams would be extremely useful for somebody doing a Great One grind similar to me. I could just imagine setting up trail cams at all of the lakes that I don't typically go to, just so that I can keep track of whether or not there's going to be something spawning there that I would not otherwise know about. Like, let's say this zone right here. Well, obviously it says Mexican bobcat at the moment, but this is typically an area where whitetail can be. Let's say I put a trail camera at this zone, along with all the other zones around this lake, and then you could check the cameras from like your phone in game. I think that would be really cool, and that would make it so that I could see what is in those zones without actually having to travel there. Because obviously during the time that you are going to be running from where you shot the deer to where you're going to claim them, you'll have a little bit of free time to go through and actually take a look at everything on your cameras. I think that would be just an amazing thing for Great One grinding. And you could use it in many other ways as well, but I really think that is most likely the way that it would get used the most, is just to keep track of need zones that maybe you don't hunt super often. You could even place them at the zones that you are hunting a lot, just to see if you've got your respawns or if they've arrived at their zone. There's a lot of things that could really be amazing to come out of something like trail cameras being added. I really do think they'd be a hit, and a lot of people would be very happy to see them enter the game. And unlike some requests that I see in the community, trail cams actually do seem to be one of the most logical ones for them to add, just because it would have so many benefits for people that are grinding, and it would add quite a bit of realism to the game, because trail cameras are a very commonly used thing in real life as well. So it would just make sense that they could add something like this and have it be used by a ton of people. Well, that's a pretty solid whitetail deer out there, so I think we're going to go ahead and take this guy out as we talk about the second thing that I would like to see here in the Hunter Call of the Wild. That second thing being a spotting scope, and this is a pretty good example of where that would come in handy. You really have to use the Argus scope to see close up on these deer and get a good idea of what they look like. If I'm just using the regular binoculars, it's kind of difficult to make out just how large a deer is, and a spotting scope would solve that issue, giving you at least the amount of zoom that the Argus has. That would just be absolutely amazing for grinding and just for hunting in general. It would be amazing. I'd love to see something like that added to the game. As for whether or not it'll get added, I think this actually has a pretty high chance of eventually being added to the game. A little bit higher chance than trail cams even. Well, we got another shot into that guy, but it definitely was not great. I think he still should go down, though. Typically, even just one hit from a 308 will take them down regardless of where you hit. So I think that guy should hit the ground soon. But as I was saying, spotting scopes would be a great addition. They're in the Hunter Classic, so that also gives it a higher chance of being added to the game at some point. And I do think this will be something that we see sooner than later. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is another very highly requested thing that I think has a pretty high chance of making it into the game. And that thing is loadouts. I see a lot of people requesting loadouts being added to the game, so it'll be much easier to, I guess, go from map to map and just be able to change your loadout with the click of a button, which would be perfect. You would basically have, I guess, preset loadouts that you could create and design however you want, and then just switch to them by clicking one button. It would be absolutely amazing to have something like that in-game. And it is one of the most highly requested things, as well as stuff like trail cams and spotting scopes. It's pretty high up there in stuff that I always see people talking about and wanting added to the game. So I think there is also a pretty high chance that that will get added at some point. I think they've even talked about it at some point. So I would say we'll probably get loadouts. I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that one of these days we'll get loadouts. It just makes sense to have something like that in the game, and once again, this is a feature that is in the Hunter Classic, which already gives it a higher chance of coming to Call of the Wild. Because I remember a while back they did mention that they wanted to add a lot of the stuff from Classic into Call of the Wild. So loadouts being the third thing that we're talking about today, I think they've got a pretty high chance of making it. But let's go ahead and move on to the fourth thing that I think would be amazing here in Call of the Wild. And this is actually one that I talked about with you guys during a live stream a few days ago, and that is random need zones. Now, you may be curious what I mean exactly by random need zones, because there is a few different things that could mean, but what I'm talking about is randomizing the times for need zones. Now, this is also something that could be a little bit confusing, because there's a few different ways that that could be taken, I guess, but what I'm talking about specifically is every single herd and every single animal having a random need zone time. So, let's say, for example, obviously these numbers are not, like, the actual numbers, but let's say there's 10 herds of whitetail on your map, right? So let's say herd number 1 drinks from 5 to 8 in the morning. Herd number 2 could drink from 7 to 10 in the morning. Herd number 3 could drink from 6 to 9 in the morning. Herd number 4 could drink from like 15 to 18. Like, there's a lot of stuff that could come out of this. And it would kind of make it more difficult to grind, but it would also add more realism to the game, and I think it would overall be good. You wouldn't necessarily be able to grind one specific species as easily as you can now, but it would make it so you'd see a lot of different animals from server to server, and I think that would really help with the variety. And it would make it so you're not confined to just one time if you want to have some good luck hunting for a specific species. You could find any species at any time of day drinking at the local lakes, and it would be the same with feed zones and resting zones as well, and overall I think that would just be a great thing for the game. Now obviously not everybody's going to agree with that one. A lot of people do like the zones the way they are, but there's also a lot of people that don't like how it's so easy to get deer pretty much wherever you go. You just go to whatever time it is, or I guess whatever time those animals drink at, and you can find tons of them everywhere. But as I was saying, I totally get it for the people that don't want that type of a change. Call of the Wild is a bit of a more arcade style game, so I guess it's not the end of the world if something like that doesn't ever get added. But it would be pretty cool in my opinion, and it would give you a lot more variety of what you could hunt at each time of day. Now, this next one is something that Flinter mentioned in his video that he made a few months ago talking about what he'd like to see in the game, and I have had so many of you guys ask me if this is something that I would like added to the game, and the answer is yes. I 100% want them to remove the level system for animals. The level 1 through 9 is just, I don't know, it's a little bit outdated at this point. It's been in the game since the very beginning, and I think with some of the changes they've made over the years, it's made it so this system is less and less relevant, and I would like to see them lean towards something similar to what Flinter talked about with there being like an age system for deer. Like, let's say you spot a diamond whitetail, instead of saying 3 very easy, maybe it would say, and I don't know the exact age that whitetail live to, I really don't know much about IRL whitetail because they're not really around where I live, but let's say it says like 8 to 10 years old instead of saying level 3 very easy. I think that would definitely be a bit more realistic, and overall I think it would just be better. Let me know what you guys think about that one, because I know that's probably something that a lot more people will have more opinions about, because I guess the level system has been kind of an iconic part of the game. You see a level 9 legendary and you kind of freak out. So let me know what you guys think about that one, because it's definitely one of the more, I guess, controversial picks here. But I do think it would be good to overhaul that system and change it to an age range instead. Very similar to what Flinter was talking about. So this next one that we're going to talk about is actually kind of 2 in 1, because there's a couple different things I'd like done with the weapons in Call of the Wild. One of them is I'd like to see them just completely ditch this current class system for the rifles. It really does not work as well as they intended it to, I think, and it makes it so there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense when you're looking at the rifles and what animals you can shoot with them. Like, how is it that a Mosin shooting the 7.62x54R is in a lower class range than the 6.5? To me, that really doesn't make a lot of sense, because in real life, 7.62x54R is an absolute beast of a round, and it would definitely be stronger than a 6.5. And also, why is the 6.5 and the 308 the exact same class range when their power levels are vastly different? There's a lot of things that don't make sense about the current weapons system in Call of the Wild, and I do think it would be better to go to something similar to what Classic has, where each rifle has its own list of animals that you can shoot. It's a little bit more complicated for newer players, which I could see that maybe being an issue, but overall, I think it'd be better for the game if the rifles used a system similar to that, where, let's say the 243, maybe you could shoot everything that's deer size and below, except for stuff like rabbit and duck, which I suppose is similar to what it is now. That's one of the rifles where things wouldn't really change too much. But let's say the 300 Magnum, you can shoot anything ranging in size from a deer clear up to something like a moose, but you wouldn't be able to use it on Cape Buffalo or lions, because in real life you really can't use a 300 Magnum for something like a Cape Buffalo. It really wouldn't be the smartest idea, and in most places they don't even allow you to use something that small. You are required to use, I believe, at minimum a 375. I could be wrong on that one, but I know for a fact that you're not allowed in a lot of places to use the 300 Magnum, which I think it'd be cool if they did that in Call of the Wild, because it has always felt really weird using a 300 for something like a Cape Buffalo. It just, in my opinion, doesn't make a lot of sense. They should use much larger calibers for the dangerous game. And the big reason in real life that you can't use a 300 Magnum for a Cape Buffalo or Lion is because they are a dangerous game, which is why they require you to use a 375 or higher, because it's obviously got a lot more power and a much better chance of it putting the animal down quickly and less chances of you getting attacked in the process. Now, hopefully I got all that info correct, because that was a lot of info that I learned from you guys during the live streams and some of the previous videos, so a lot of that info about dangerous game and what rifles are available to use on them is stuff that I've learned from you guys, so hopefully I remembered all of it correctly. But the next part of weapon customization that I'd like to talk about is being able to swap out different parts of your rifles, like being able to add suppressors, being able to change out the stock, maybe being able to add different rails for the ARs, different handguards. Like, a lot of that stuff would be really cool. Will we get it? Probably not, but I would really love to see something like that. I mean, the option to be able to add different muzzle brakes, different suppressors and things like that would be really cool, because suppressors actually are used quite a bit in real life. It's kind of strange that we haven't had a hunting game with suppressors yet, when they're actually a pretty common thing to use. And these last two things are both relating to kind of like, I guess, the trophy lodge. Now, the first thing is I'd like to see them improve the trophy manager, because currently the trophy manager is not exactly the best. It's very hard to find a lot of animals if you've taxidermized a lot of stuff, and that creates a pretty rough issue for somebody like me who has literally thousands of trophies taxed and has no way to really quickly sort through all of them and delete the ones that I don't want anymore without it taking literal hours to go through everything. It would be so much easier if you could sort things by the metal type, the animal species, male, female, fur type. If you could sort your trophy manager and like filter it to just those, things would be so much easier for organizing your trophies and deleting the ones that you don't want anymore. And this next one is, once again, kind of two things in one. I would love to see them add trophy shots to the game. Let's say you kill a great one, and you want to get some pictures of it, but you don't want to have to just use the in-game camera. You want to actually get a picture with your hunter holding up the deer. That would just be a dream come true for most of us that have played the Hunter Classic, and a lot of people that haven't as well. I know tons of people want this change to be added to the game, and I am one of them. Trophy shots would just be one of the best things to come to Call of the Wild if they ever do it. From what I've heard in the past, I think there is some things that have prevented them from doing it that, unfortunately are unavoidable with limitations in the game. But I really hope that one of these days they find a way to do trophy shots, because it would be so cool. And that brings me to the second part of this. I would love to be able to hang trophy shots up in the lodge. Being able to hang some trophy shots in the lodge above the deer that's taxidermized would be so perfect. I would love to be able to have a picture of a great one above the great one. That would just be so awesome, and I really hope that we get something like that at some point in the future. And I do think this is more likely than a lot of things like the weapon customization and removing the level system and things like that. This probably has a higher chance of making it because it is one of the most requested things I see everywhere. So I think if any of these were to happen, most likely trophy shots and spotting scope and loadouts are the most likely to happen out of everything that we've talked about today. But I would be happy if any of these things came to the game. So hopefully one of these days they will add some of them in. I think it would be a great step in the right direction for Call of the Wild. This game has just been getting better and better the last few updates. It seems like EW is finally getting to a state again where the game is, for the most part, working across the board. I haven't seen nearly as many complaints recently about bugs and stuff like that. So I think now it's time to focus on some of the different quality of life features and just fun stuff that people want added to the game. Hopefully we see some of that soon. We've already started to with the recent weapon pack adding in ARs. Honestly, I feel like at this point everything is going to be just up for Call of the Wild, so I can't wait to see what else they end up adding in the near future. But with that being said, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and end it here. This was a fun video to make. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Let me know down below some more things you would like to see added to the game, and we'll talk about some of them in a part 3 at some point down the line. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, click that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you guys will never miss any of the future uploads. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below like I was saying, and let me know what you want to see, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!